And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Ryan Metzler.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan Metzler here again, and today we're going to take a look at a game that everyone else has already covered, but I figured I would give my opinion on as well. Late to the party, but hey, better late than never, I suppose. We're going to take a look at Marvel Dicemasters. You can see I have all of mine in this Plano-style box here. This is a deck building, dice building game. It's dice, and it's from the maker of Quarriors, WizKids, along with Michael Elliott, and he's designed a game along with, I think, a co-designer, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the name, but he's designed a game that uses many of the Quarriors mechanisms in order to drive a 1v1 competition between two players in a very CCG-ish style, kind of like Magic the Gathering, as a matter of fact, a lot like Magic the Gathering, but we'll cover that shortly. It is collectible, so if you're not interested in collectible games, you can probably stop right here. But if you have any interest in collectible games, especially ones that are relatively affordable, you should continue on and take a look at the very quick gameplay overview I'm going to give, because everyone's already covered it. And then we'll come back and we'll get my final opinions on Marvel Dicemasters at the end. So here you can see some of the components for Marvel Dicemasters. First thing I want to mention is that this playmat right here is something I've ordered and does not come with the game, nor does the meeple here. But there's a sheet in the rulebook that looks much like this, as well as things you can print out online that have this layout on them that tell you how to play the game. So the components you see right here in the center don't come with the game. Everything else you're going to see here comes with the starter set, which is not currently available. But you can get more of this through buying the booster packs. But you're going to need something for these basic action dice if you want to play right now, as well as for these sidekick dice. You'll have to proxy them until starters become available. Now, the way this game is going to work is everybody's going to have 8 of these sidekick dice here, and these are going to be the starter dice that everyone will have in every game. These are going to go into your bag. We have a little Tyvek style bag here. I need to get something to replace these, but they are functional for the game. So those are going to go in there. In the starter game, everybody's going to start with 10 life. So each player will have 10 life, and you're trying to reduce them to 0. In addition, they suggest in the starter a couple of different options for who you can play with in your first game. In this case, I'm using Beast, Mutate 666, which is a specific form of Beast. It's his title. And we have Captain America, American Hero. Each card on it will have some type of indicator. So you'll see here Beast 666. In the top left corner is his cost. It has a number 2, which means you have to spend 2 energy. And then behind that, there's this mask icon, meaning that you must spend at least 1 mask to buy him. Then you have the name and the title and a picture. I wish they would have used different art for different versions of the same character, but they didn't. And then down here you're going to have his abilities. And it says here, when Beast blocks, you get to draw 1 die and place it into your prep area, which means that you're going to have more dice for the next turn. In addition, it says if you happen to roll one of the Starburst variants of the Beast here, he's going to go ahead and say that you can instead draw 2 dice, placing 1 in your prep area and the other one in your used pile, which will help you cycle through your cards a little bit faster. At the bottom, you'll see a couple different things. One, it says max 4. You can see it right there. That is the maximum number of Beast dice you may use when you're using the full game if you're using this card. So if you have 5 Beast dice, you can only use 4 of them to put on here. And when you're building a deck, that'll be important. In addition, you'll see the layout of all of the possible faces of Beast. So you can have 1 mask, 2 masks, 2 masks, a level 0 Beast indicated in the top right-hand corner, who has a 1 attack and a 2 defense, but has the Starburst on it, and then another level 1 Beast, or I guess he's technically 0 to field, but he's level 2, who has 2 attack and 3 defense, and a 1-cost fielding Beast, which has 2 attack and 4 defense, but no Starbursts. So cards will look like that. Captain America has a very similar layout, but he costs 4. He requires you spend at least 1 shield. He has the Avengers logo, as Beast has the X-Men logo. And then beneath that, he has a different ability that says when you field him, you may re-roll a sidekick that's in your used pile. And he has much better stats for attacking and defense. Now, there's also going to be some central basic action cards. In the full game, you're going to choose 8 characters that you would like to use, up to 20 dice from those characters, and you're going to choose 2 basic actions to put out in the center. You'll see that there are 3 dice on each of them, and this will basically be the scenario for that. Each player will choose 2 basic actions with 3 dice on each. When you have these out here, they're going to be actions that you can use if you roll the appropriate side, which will always be this burst with the exclamation point in the center. And they have some type of ability. For example, this one here says that you knock out a level 1 character if you use that die, and if it has the Starburst, you can knock out a level 1 or 2. They also may have global abilities, which will be available to everyone, saying you can spend a fist, for example, to make target blocked character deal no damage. So they're going to be available actions that everyone can buy from, as well as the characters that only you can use. On your turn, you're going to draw 4 dice. You're going to draw them from your bag, and you are going to roll them. Now, of course, at the beginning of the game, I'm only going to have sidekicks, so I'll roll these, and when I do so, I'm going to place them in my reserve pool. You'll see I got Lightning Bolt, a Fist, and a Mask. There are also going to be shields on these dice, which are different types of energy. And there's going to be, of course, your sidekicks, which are little level 0 fielding cost, which is this number up in the corner, 1 attack and 1 defense guys. Once you've rolled, you get a free reroll. You can choose any of these dice you want and reroll them. So maybe I want to try and get more of a diversity of energy. I'm going to reroll these 2, and I got another Fist and another Lightning Bolt. Not great for me, especially given what I can buy out here from my area. There's also going to be a question mark on some of these, which will be any type of energy. So let's go ahead and say I rolled that and have a little bit more variety. Now, once I've rolled, I have a choice of what I'd like to do with these dice. If any of them came up characters, let's go ahead and say this one did, I can field them for their fielding cost, and this guy has a fielding cost of 0. I can put him in the field zone for free, spending no energy. I can also buy cards. I have the choice of buying from my own supply as well as buying from the central supply here, and the costs of the basic actions in the center are generic, 3 energy or 4 energy, with no specific energy required. So I can buy these, and what I could do here is I could buy this one for 3 because I have 3 energy left, or I could choose to buy some of my dice from over here. You may buy as many dice as you can afford to buy, but any bought dice are going to go into the used pile. So let's say I spend 2 of my energy. I'm going to use this question mark as a mask to buy Beast, and I'm going to use another energy in order to buy that, and I have 1 Lightning Bolt left. Well, that does me no good, but it stays here for now in case something comes up or there happens to be a global ability on my side or my opponent's side that will let me use this Lightning Bolt. Once I've done all of this, we've gone through clear and draw, roll and re-roll. We're in the main step, and I've done my buying and my recruiting or fielding of guys. I can move on to the attack step, and this is where I have a choice with each of my characters out on the field. What I can do is I can either attack with them, moving them to the attack zone, and basically this is going to let me deal damage to my opponent or their characters. When I attack, my opponent has the option of blocking with whatever characters they have out there. And damage is going to be dealt both ways, so my guy would deal 1 damage and be able to take 1 damage because of his attack and defense values. If he takes lethal damage by being blocked, he'll get sent to the knockout area, which also happens to be the prep area, meaning he gets to be rolled again next turn. If he goes unblocked and deals his damage to my opponent, he's going to go to the used pile, and he will essentially be out of the round, and he'll go back into my bag once I run out of dice to be rolled again in a future turn. Alternatively, he could be blocked and not dealt lethal damage. This is very unlikely with a sidekick, but say this guy had 5 defense and he was dealt 4 damage. He would go back to the field zone and be available to attack or block or do whatever he wants to do in a future turn. So those are the 3 options. Either die and go to the prep area, deal your damage to the opponent and go to the used area, or get blocked and not die and go back to the fielded area in order to be used in the future. If you do deal damage, your opponent, of course, will go down in life total, hopefully reducing them to 0 before you get reduced to 0. Anyhow, once you're done, you're going to pass the turn to the next player, and essentially they're going to go ahead and take their turn doing the same things, drawing dice, rolling them, using them to buy other dice, fielding characters, using the abilities of their characters, and hopefully dealing damage to you back and forth. Now, you're going to try and do more damage to your opponent than they can do to you in a faster amount of time, and the first player to deal lethal damage, in the case of the starting game 10, in the case of the full game 20, in order to reduce them to 0 is going to be the winner. Now, as I mentioned, I didn't want to go over a whole lot of mechanisms in the game, but I do want to talk a little bit about the collectible aspect of this game. As you go through and open up packs, you're going to open up several different varieties of the same characters. The starter set will have several, for example, beasts that are all common. But you can open uncommon beasts like this one here, and you can see there's a little green line here that indicates it's uncommon. Or Black Widow, for example. There's a common Black Widow. There is an ultra rare Black Widow, which has a better ability, and of course, a little indicator to show that it's ultra rare. And so you're going to go through and you're going to open it up and you're going to note, hey, these all have the same artwork. It's one of my main criticisms here. I wish they would have used different artwork for different rarities, for different abilities, but they didn't. All of the dice that you're going to use for each character, though, are going to be exactly the same. Whether it's a common Deadpool or a rare Deadpool, they'll be exactly the same dice. So once you open dice and you find them, you're not going to need to get new dice to collect for having better characters. They'll just kind of work for all of them. Now the basic actions, like I said, that you start the game with are all going to be from the basic set. So you're going to get a starter set and you're going to have all these basic actions like the ones that I showed you. And you get to choose which one of those you'd like to field for a competitive game. Each player will choose 2 and field them out there in order to use them and hopefully, get an advantage by having a card that's better for your deck style than for your opponent's. As I said, you're going to be able to collect a lot of cards. There's quite a few in the starter set, but you're looking to get the ones that are going to best work for your playstyle. So you're going to look through them eventually and decide what you want to make in your deck. For me, there's several cards that I think are great. For example, there's a Storm card here that says, when you field her, you can re-roll your opponent's dice that are out in their area as characters, and if you roll non-characters, they actually go to their use pile and deal damage to your opponent. I think that's a great card, and it's not even a rare, it's an uncommon. So I think having that card's awesome, but other players will have different play styles. There's also another one of my favorites, which is a Loki card, which is going to let you cancel the ability to field one of your opponent's characters while Loki is on the board. So they actually can't use the character while he's out there. They're going to have to target him in some way to remove him. So as I said, lots of cards you can open, and then there's also all of the different dice, which look awesome, and it's just great to open up a pack and get more. So you can see a lot of my dice here. I have almost a full set at this point, but not a full set. And then I have even more of them underneath here that you're going to be using to field your deck. So you're going to want to have a large diversity of both cards and dice in order to have a great experience with this game. And there you have it. That is Marvel Dicemasters, a 1v1 collectible dice game competition style thing in which you're going to be putting together your choice of different characters using different dice and then using those dice to hopefully counteract the abilities of your opponent's dice in order to beat your opponent into submission by dealing 20 damage to them. And whoever can better do this is the winner. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's a very CCG style game. It's a CDG, in which you're going to be buying these packs, and the packs are relatively cheap. They're only $1, which, only $1. Keep shelling out that dollar. Yes, that will happen to you. But it's only $1 times however many hundred that you buy. But each pack will come with 2 cards, 2 dice, and then you have, of course, the rarity issues of common, uncommon, rare, super rare, and how many you want to buy until you fill out that collection. So there's that. In addition, the starters, which you have to have to play, are not currently available. They didn't produce enough of them, so you can't really get into it right now unless you want to proxy your own starter. But overall, let's just talk about the merits of the game. Very good game, actually. I wasn't a huge Quarriors person. I got into it, I kind of liked it at the start, and it faded for me very quickly. But I think this takes Quarriors and adds several strategic elements to the game that are very nice. One, you get to build your own team beforehand. You're going to come in with 8 different cards and 20 different dice that you can use. Well, they won't all be different, but 20 dice that you can use to buy and make your deck throughout the game. You'll be drawing from a bag and using those dice. So this is nice, and you have access to those characters. Your opponent will have access to others. You're also going to have basic actions in the center of the table, and you'll all have access to those, as well as the global abilities that'll be out there for everyone. So you have a lot of choices to make on your turn as to how to use the energy you roll. The fact that you have different characters and that you have them all accessible to you to buy, but you don't necessarily have all of them in your bag is very nice. Because as your opponent kind of builds their deck and builds their strategy, you can counteract that by buying the appropriate dice and putting them in your bag. So it's kind of a balance off of what your opponent's doing back and forth. Now you are rolling those dice, and I think that might make this a little bit more random in some aspects than, for example, Magic the Gathering, where you have a deck full of cards and you draw them and hopefully get the cards you want. Now in this, you're hoping to draw the dice that you want, but then on top of that, hoping to roll what you need to roll on that die. However, this is balanced by the fact that I said you can buy whichever dice you want and have a better chance of buying the appropriate die that you, or of drawing the appropriate die that you need if you buy less stuff to put into your bag that's not what you want in that particular scenario. In addition, you can leave stuff out on the board. You have choices as to whether or not you want to attack or defend, which things you'd like to attack with, and there's strategy to that dependent on if you attack and get through, you use that dice and he goes away. If you attack and get blocked, he stays on the battlefield if he doesn't die, and if he attacks and dies, you get to roll him again the next turn. So there's a lot of strategy in how to manage those characters. Overall, I'd say this is a game that I enjoy quite a bit. I'm a big fan of CCG-style games. Not a huge fan of die rolling, but I think that it's well implemented in this game, and if you're not a fan of dice, you may find that this one works out for you after all. So if that sounds good to you, check it out. This is Marvel Dicemasters from WizKids Games.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.